Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we're going to take a look at Pluto turning direct in the sign of Capricorn, and we're going to do some brief reminder horoscopes just as we did for Jupiter turning retrograde in Gemini. I think this will be useful because we can reflect on the end of an era, the end of a long process that Pluto in Capricorn represents in our birth charts. So we're going to look at the whole sign horoscopes today for all 12 signs and give you just a few little thoughts for each of the house positions that Pluto lands in as it is finishing up its very long, the very long period of work that it's been doing in our lives. We'll reflect on the overall timeline of Pluto. I'll say a few thoughts about what you might look for thematically overall, and then we'll talk about the house topics that are active right now through your horoscope. So I recommend listening for your rising sign as always. But you can also listen to your sun sign if you prefer listening to that one. Just listen to the sign that you typically listen to. All right. Anyhow, before we get into horoscopes today, don't forget to like and subscribe. Our next goal is 80,000 by the spring equinox. So this goal I set rather arbitrarily because the big goal really in my mind is to see if we can get to 100,000 subscribers on the channel. But I feel like a next manageable goal is to get to 80. So let's see if we can get to 80,000 by the spring equinox, which gives us a good amount of time. So if you are new to the channel, we appreciate your subscription. It's free, doesn't cost anything, helps us grow our business. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. The middle of October, I have a new talk under my live events page or events. Go to live talks. You'll see the next webinar coming up, which is called The Myth of Astrological Compatibility, what everybody gets wrong about the astrology of relationships. There are some really simple things that work and a lot of things that really don't work when it comes to understanding compatibility in astrology. So if you want to learn about that, come check out this webinar on October 17th. You can't attend live. You get the talk later. The other thing that I'm promoting right now is we are almost at the end of our early bird registration sale for the upcoming year one program, which begins November 16th. So just starting in a little bit over a month from now, the next year one program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, a full year immersion into Hellenistic astrology. After I sign off today, there's an informational video I'm tagging on to all videos during enrollment period so that you can learn more about the program and all that includes. So stick around if you want to learn about that after today's content is done. At the bottom, you'll find enrollment sale options that last until the 15th. You can use those to save on the cost of the program. And then anytime between now and the start of the program, we do have need-based tuition, which is for people on a fixed or limited income. So if you'd really like to take the class, but you have to work within a tight budget, we get it. We want to make sure that nobody's priced out of studying something that we consider to be sacred and something that we feel should be very accessible for all people. So use the tuition assistance. We'll set you up with a payment plan that matches your budget and make sure that it's not too much of a stress for you. So apply now for that. And we hope to see some of you in class soon. And again, stick around after content today for more on the programs. All right. Now, on that note, let us bring up the real-time clock so we can take a look at Pluto in Capricorn. So as this week goes on, we're going to see that by Friday, here we go. October 11th on Friday, Pluto is stationing to turn direct. So here you'll see that. It's happening right as the moon conjoins Pluto as well in Capricorn. So an important moment of direct motion from Pluto that signals its very last turn of direction in the sign of Capricorn. From this moment forward, it will be going into Aquarius where it will not look back to Capricorn any longer. So get ready for the end of an era. Now, the day of an outer planet stationing to turn direct or retrograde is not always the world's most noticeable thing. They are process-oriented planets that move slowly, and their turns often represent turning points that are slower and longer and more drawn out. So to notice them takes a little bit of careful observation. You have to be sort of in the habit of noticing and paying attention to transits to really notice an outer planet changing directions most of the time. Depends on if it's hitting a planet in your chart or a point in your chart. Of course, that'll be more noticeable for sure. But generally speaking, these reflect shifts or changes of direction and momentum within storylines that have a lot of history behind them because Pluto takes a long time to work through a sign, and now it's finishing up in a sign that it has been in for over a decade. Let's go back in time And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove every single thing in the chart on in our view, except for Pluto. Let's go back in time. I mean, here we are in 2024. And isn't it interesting to see? Let's just back this up here. So this is 2007. And you can see that here in January of 2008 into February, I guess, Pluto enters Capricorn. So 2008 is when we see the entrance. Now it's going to retrograde in 2008 into the late part of Sagittarius. At the very tail end of 2008, here we can see that Pluto shifted signs. So Pluto is then spending the rest of its days from the fall of 2008 forward in Capricorn up until now. You know, so if you take that and spread it out all the way 24 to 2008, right? That's about 16 years that we have been hanging out with Pluto in Capricorn. So I think there's a few things we can say about Pluto in Capricorn overall. One is that the shadows of Pluto in Capricorn are often, this is, remember, the exaltation of Mars and the domicile of Saturn, a feminine earth sign, the concern with getting ahead, building power and success along established hierarchies within traditional frameworks of societally defined success. Those kinds of things are pretty normal for Pluto in Capricorn. The shadow of Pluto in Capricorn is stuff like the drive for power, wealth, success, privilege at the cost of other people, or with a kind of ruthless Machiavellian drive. You know, it doesn't matter who gets crushed beneath my ambition. Probably the worst part about Capricorn in a way is the the kind of ruthless, cold, hard, practical, driving urge to be successful or to be masterful or to dominate or to rise up along, again, established hierarchies. However, the exact same principles put toward noble pursuits are what allow us to work hard, practice hard, show maturity, discipline. And it really is as simple as hard work pays off, especially when you're trying to build good things like your character or like the evolution of your soul. It requires hard work. It requires staying power. It requires that you be real with yourself, that you not fall into regressive behaviors, that you pick up your cross and you carry it. You know, that's Capricorn at its best. We can climb a mountain. We can do hard things, and hard things actually make us happier. Not all the time, but for Capricorn, that's the lesson. Doing hard things makes everything easier. The more you learn how to do hard things gladly, especially hard things that mean something to you, the better off you are. Now, I'll say this like as someone who has a few different areas of my life in which this has taken place. Like I would say my 10 years of working with ayahuasca, very difficult experiences, but very productive in terms of like growing me up and teaching me amazing, beautiful, healing lessons, but also requiring a kind of grit and determination to get in there and do the work. That's pretty common for therapy, for any kind of healing modality that requires, you know, that you kind of you're cooking yourself in the alembic, and you have to be willing to do that in order to get the best out of yourself. There's a lot of us that we know we have good things in us, but we will spend all of our lives defending the good things that are in us somehow rather than doing the work to bring them out and actually make them a tangible, manifest part of our experience, as opposed to just something we know we're capable of. Well, knowing you're capable of something for Capricorn isn't good enough. It has to be actually done. So Capricorn won't settle for people saying, all of my worth exists in potentiality or in dreams or visions of what I'm capable of. I know I'm capable. It's like, Capricorn is very practical. Put your money where your mouth is. Get something done. Do something that impresses you. If you're capable of it, then good. Then go do it. But the best of Capricorn is really that kind of ambition put in service of things you're trying to build that are a part of your soul, that are a part of your dharma, that grow you in positive ways, and that therefore the work is not feeding into ruthless, cold-hearted drives for material success or power or greed or what have you. We don't get anywhere in life from Pluto and Capricorn's perspective without sacrifice and hard work. All of the most beautiful, valuable things in this world require an ongoing effort to maintain or to cultivate, and so there's that part of it. Now, there's other signs that reflect different philosophies. That maybe there's something a little different. Like I think of what Pisces says in contrast, like, chill out, or everything, just let things flow, But Capricorn's perspective is that the good things take hard work. So what have the shadows been for you since 2008 in this particular area of life that we're going to look at through these horoscopes? And what are the blessings or the benefits, let's call them, of the hard work that you have done? So let's take a look now at all 12 whole signs, and I'm just going to give you some key words. For Aries, it's the workhouse. What have you been learning, developing, growing? What is the hard work that you have done, the best hard work that you've done? What are the hard things that you've done to grow with respect to career? Things are coming to complete themselves now. It's the end of an era. And what are the shadows that have come up with respect to career, going all the way back to 2008? Career, public reputation, vocation, work, trades that maybe a trade that you practice. That's Aries. For Taurus, it's the house of wisdom, philosophy, beliefs, religion, spirituality, learning. What have you learned? What has the culmination of your experience been in this house of the higher mind? I think back as a Taurus rising myself to the fact that in 2008, I started studying astrology. So many ninth house adventures, trips to India, experiences with an Indian religious community, ayahuasca circles. I mean, so many ninth house experiences. I can reflect on all of them and what I've learned, and the hard work that's gone in, as well as the shadows that have been explored. That's the same for all Taurus risings. Look at that house of wisdom, philosophy, learning, teachers, foreign countries, expanding your horizons, understanding reality at a deeper level. Never fully understanding it, but progressing somehow in our understanding. For Geminis, it's the 8th house, this long period of looking at karmic exchanges with other human beings. What do other people give you that is of real lasting value? And what do you give to other people? What debts have been cleared? How have you come to understand the inner workings of karma in relationships? What have you had to let go of? Where has ambition been your guide? And where has it been your enemy with respect to relationships with other people? Where has the need for approval from other people, or where has that been a good thing for you, like looking for the right kinds of validation versus the wrong kinds? For Cancers, we see that Pluto's in your 7th house, reflecting culmination of a long journey around love, intimacy, sexuality, relationships, marriage. This is a long process for Cancers of allowing relationships to be the source of our maturation, letting other people help us grow up and deepen and mature. And also, what have the shadows been in love, sex, and relationships? What have you had to work through to heal or cleanse or purge? For Leos, we see Pluto in the 6th, place of hard work, sacrifice, labor. an element of sacrificial service in the sixth house. For Leos, what has the great work been for you? What have you learned about sacrifice? What have you learned about what is worth your time and energy and effort and what isn't? What kinds of crosses are worth carrying versus which are too heavy that you need to set down? What have you learned about workaholism? What have you learned about health and disease? What skills have you developed through a long period of hard work and practice or dedication? All right, for Virgos, we look at Pluto in the fifth house, place associated with creativity. What have you been learning? What have you been developing that allows you to share who you are creatively with the world? It's not uncommon for people to develop crafts, skills, arts, creative or performative abilities in the fifth house over a long period of time. It's also looking at what makes you genuinely feel happy and creatively fulfilled versus the things that we do that don't really make us happy, but somehow we feel we ought to do them. Creative fulfillment goes along with things like sexual, romantic happiness and connection. What have you been learning that brings you a greater degree of creative satisfaction and happiness versus what are the things you've done where you can see quite clearly, actually, this isn't making me happy? So topics like children and pregnancy and our creative legacy. Virgos, looking at their relationship with pleasure. Libras, we have Pluto in the fourth house, which is the place of home, family, ancestral karma, roots, foundations, living environment. For Librans, since 2008, there's been a long, slow, and very gradual process of transformation taking place with respect to things like home and family, parents, parental karma, your home or living environment. What shadows have you been exploring with respect to home and family since 2008? That process is culminating now with final experiences that somehow cap it off and seal the learning that's been taking place for so many years. For Scorpios, Pluto in Capricorn is turning direct in your third house. And, oops. Here we go. So turning direct in your third house. Third house is a place of your immediate environment, the culture that you are born in or are a part of. It has to do with things like siblings and neighbors and friends that are sort of like family. It has to do with everything that constellates and orbits around the roots. So we talk about it as something like the extended environment that comes out from and surrounds your home. It's the everyday world you swim in around the fish tank as opposed to the little rock that you live under. So that environmental space is a little ethereal. It can feel a little intangible, but what kinds of changes have been happening around mind, emotions, environment, culture, maybe the different kinds of people, family relations, siblings? How has your mind changed? How has what you need from your daily experience and environment changed over the years? And now there's a culminating pressure to create the final changes to the environment or in the environment that reflect the completion of a process. I remember Pluto's moving into the fourth house, which continues the emphasis on roots and home and family as well for Scorpios. We keep this going for Sagittarius. Pluto's in your second house, which it's been there again since 2008. bringing a very long process of transformation and change around things like money and finances, assets, and resources to a close. What has changed about your relationship with money? How have your resources transformed? What you have, what you use, how you earn, how you spend, the lifestyle that you live in relation to income and expenditures. There's been a lot of lessons around money and finances. Also, things like time and energy, which are also a kind of currency. How do we use what we have? How do we support ourselves? What kind of assets or resources are available to us? And how does Pluto's final moments in Capricorn reflect the completion of this long process? If you are a Capricorn rising, then this has been a very personal process for you for a very long time. You have been going through the death and rebirth of your very essence, your character, your personality, psychology, behavior, outlook on life, sense of who you are and why you're here, what you are here to learn, what you are here to offer and give, your body, your health, your identity, your very sense of self has been the focus of Pluto's work for so many years. Now things are coming to a head, and there's just a little bit of final transformation in front of you. For Aquarius, Pluto's been in your 12th house for a long time, reflecting processes in rather unconscious spaces, perhaps highlighting the need for periods of solitude or introspection, reflection, and departure from the world to gain some distance and to do the hard work of looking at ourselves in the mirror of the unconscious. So that long, slow process is also a kind of gestational process that for Aquarians in particular right now is leading from a space of unconscious gestation and labor with the unconscious shadow material of the 12th into a moment of tremendous rebirthing and personal transformation that happens as Pluto enters your first. Finally, Pisces, we have Pluto in your 11th house. For so many years, Pluto in the 11th has been reflecting an ongoing process of change with respect to things like community, groups of people, allies and friends, the people that you consider to be like-minded and beneficial connections. So Pluto here reflects one last final push of transformation within the space of groups, communities, friends, and allies. Who are the right ones and who are the wrong ones? What groups have served your interests and you've found meaningful participation in, and which groups do not match your goals, your dreams, and your own essence or your own creative gifts? We want ideally to be a part of groups that value us, that where there's a sense of reciprocity. I give something, I get something. So this final push for Pisceans in the 11th house suggests that a long process of transformation around the social dimension of your life, allies, friends, groups, is coming to a close. Around the wheel we go. So remember, you're not going to necessarily notice this culminating process of transformation on the day that Pluto turns direct, which is this weekend. You may notice it over the next couple of weeks between now and mid-November when Pluto gets back into Aquarius, at which point the ingress of Pluto into the next house will be the subject of our horoscopes, because the movement into the next whole sign house also brings with it a little bit, it's a little splashier, and it's a little bit more noticeable when Pluto ingresses. But this 29th anaretic degree is very powerful. So don't be surprised if within those topical domains I briefly touched on for all 12 whole signs, that you notice significant final lessons or final moments of change in the weeks ahead. That is it for today. Stick around after I sign off to learn more about our upcoming Year 1 program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. It is a 1-year course in Hellenistic astrology. You will love it. It is an absolutely fantastic program. We have a great staff and tons of benefits and perks throughout the program. It starts November 16th. Learn about it after I sign off, and make sure you take advantage of the sale that is running until October 15th, as well as need-based tuition if it will help you. All right, take it easy, everyone. Bye. Hey, everyone. I'm glad that you're sticking around to hear more about the Year 1 program that's coming up. The program starts on November 16th of this fall, and I am here today to tell you all that the program includes and why I think you really like it if you're thinking about studying astrology. So, a few practical details about the course as well. The class begins November 16th, as I mentioned, but it takes place on Saturdays from 12 to about 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's 11 to 2 Central, and typically classes are about 2 hours long. Sometimes they run over with Q&A and discussion, but you can always plan for about 2 hours and you won't miss any of the actual lecture content for the day. You may have to duck out a little early if Q&A or discussion is extending. Sometimes it does, which is why we say between 2 and 3 hours, but typically it's around 2. All of the classes are recorded, so if you can't attend live, you are more than welcome to watch the recordings at your own pace and on your own time. You have lifetime access to the recordings, and everything is housed on a student website. I want to actually give you a just a little preview of what that student website looks like. So I am going to open up my own version of Thinkific, which is the platform that we use. So here's are some of my courses. These are all the Nightlight courses I teach. You can see on the page. But I'm going to tune into, let's go to Nightlight 28, which is the section that began in June of 2024. So here you're going to see that we have orientation instructions, course information, class links, and calendar. Everything that you need to know how to access the course is there, and you'll have a version of this in your own panel that you get set up with when you enroll. And then our lessons are laid out. So lesson 1, we have the video, the audio, the slides, the transcript. We have the Q&A box transcript so you can see what people were saying in the chat box during class. We have flashcards. We have a workbook. We have planet and sign glyph flashcards. We have bonus material, videos that we like from YouTube that we link you to. Say, check this video out, check that video out. They go along with some of the things we talked about in class. So every lesson has material for you to go as far as you want with, but the main thing is the video, audio, slides, transcript, etc. are all listed there so that you can download and watch it on your own time if you can't attend live. Again, the live classes do happen on Saturdays for this cohort, starting November 16th. That is our first day of class. And then going forward, it always meets on Saturdays, and we give you the class schedule to map out. And the breaks that we have, the study sessions that we have, everything's mapped out on the class calendar for you. So those are just a few practical details that, just to kind of start us off with. So I'm going to take you over to the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. And I'm going to share with you some information about the program and sort of walk you through what it includes and what you can expect. So it is an almost year-long program. We typically finish between 10 and 11 months out of the year. It can depend a little bit on some of my teaching and scheduling, because sometimes I teach at conferences and it may delay some of our modules by a week or something like that. But it's typically around 10 to 11 months that the program lasts. So we call it our first year program. At Nightlight, we have a program for absolute beginners. You may want to check that out if you are like brand spanking new. That would be 8 to 10 hours of content that's really meant to set you up for the first year course. We sort of assume that if you're coming into the first year program, you already know a little bit about astrology. For example, you have some familiarity with the signs, planets, and houses. Maybe you know what aspects are, but you want to learn more about what they are. But if you are really at the very total entry level space, then try Astrology for Beginners. And when you take that, you could do that right away and then join the first year course in November, and you'd be perfectly set up for it. But anyhow, in this program, over the course of about a year, we work through 30 lessons that I lead. And those lessons are all 2 to 3 hours each, including lecture, a little break, and a Q&A portion where we open up for people to come on mic and camera and ask questions and have an interactive discussion about the material for the day. The program is broken into modules that cover a variety of topics in ancient Hellenistic astrology. That is the earliest era of horoscopic astrology. And so, if you don't know a lot about the different schools of astrology, Hellenistic astrology is going to be the kind of astrology that you see a lot of astrologers practicing nowadays. It's become more popular in the last 30 years or so. And that is due to the fact that a lot of ancient texts with some of the original techniques of horoscopic astrologers were recently translated into the English language, and it's created this renaissance in terms of the use of ancient approaches to astrology. I have a background in modern psychological, archetypal, and evolutionary astrology, and so of course I bring those things to the table, but the course is primarily focused on the excavation of ancient techniques and the spiritual philosophy that ancient astrologers also espoused. The closest thing that I can tell you to what that looks like is, ask this question: do you resonate with the philosophy that you hear me take on my YouTube channel? If so, then you're going to love this course in terms of its philosophical and spiritual approach, because the spiritual approach to astrology that I teach is really at the heart of the program. And that's a big part of my life. I approach astrology from a spiritual standpoint. It doesn't belong to one religion or one particular school of thought, but you will hear me talking about things like the soul, the belief in the transmigration of the soul. You'll hear me talk about the need to be soul-centered in our client approach to counseling in astrology. You'll hear me have an appreciation for psychological dimensions of astrology, but also ancient astrology is really very, very good at developing your predictive capacity. We talk about what kinds of predictions are appropriate, how to make appropriate predictions, how to be the right kind of astrologer for our clients without inducing any fear. So there's a lot of care that goes into the development of this craft. But ancient astrology is really amazing when it comes to honing your predictive abilities. And then what you'll find is in this program, there's also a pretty significant emphasis on the psychological dimensions and client care. Anyhow, we go into the roots of ancient Hellenistic astrology and its techniques in this program, and the 30 classes are broken into modules. We work through the history and philosophy. We work through planets, houses, signs, aspects, essential and accidental dignities, and then we get into approaches to the delineation of natal charts. And then at the end of the program, almost a third of the program is dedicated to live client readings, where you're going to see me meet with a person and apply what we've been studying for an hour-long reading. We take a break, we come back, and then we workshop. How did I do that? Why did I make these choices? How did I handle this or that came up in the reading? And it becomes easily the favorite part for most students of the entire program, because by that point, you've got so much theory that you're really ready to see it put into action. We alternate those live client practice sessions with hands-on practice, where students get to bring chart questions into class that we work on. And that's also something that most people really love. A lot of people will look at the curriculum and say, well, I already know planets, houses, and signs and aspects and dignities. But not if you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology, because the approach that ancient astrologers had to these topics is vastly different from the approach that modern astrologers take. So you will be, in a sense, relearning basic things in a brand new way. And I think a much more enriching, deep, and philosophically clear way. It's really nice to know the why behind things. This program and Hellenistic astrology in general is very good at helping you understand the why behind everything that we do. Also, it's really important to participate when you study astrology in a living lineage. So one of the reasons I don't let people jump ahead to my second or third year programs is because I want you to be entrained to a lineage, a particular way of doing things that comes from an astrologer who has a very living, busy, active practice and who has had teachers themselves. I think that's important for astrological learning. That's the model that my own learning take, and so that's what I really want students to take away from my programs. Anyhow, so all of that aside, the second year program focuses, after we build our understanding of the basic delineation techniques of birth charts, in year 2, we move into timing techniques, which is all about when the karma of a birth chart is going to be active and expressing itself throughout the course of a lifetime. That's year 2. Year 3 focuses on the development of counseling skills at a much deeper level. And then we also have a 1-year horary program, which is about the development of a very specific predictive technique that can be a really amazing tool to add to your kit. That is 4 years worth of training programs that we have. However, I want to mention that many people take our classes just for the sake, purely for the sake of their own personal growth. Taking these programs is very much like being taught how to utilize a technology that for yourself will be deeply useful for the rest of your life, and maybe for close friends or family members around you. Many people come through our programs taking that benefit away. We'll study through all 4 years of our programs with no intention of being professional. This is their hobby. This is a spiritual tool that will have it will pay dividends over a long period of time. However, many people without the intention to practice come into our courses and discover that they're actually good at it and may end up reading for other people part-time. And then there are students who are deeply, intensely motivated to practice for other people. And it is not that our programs really make those people successful. Our programs contribute to your development, but it really is that some people have a calling to practice professionally. And these programs are designed to give you all the tools you need to develop that confidence and to develop a really coherent set of tools and to entrain yourself to a lineage, which you can also develop your own unique style out of. So those are some of the kinds of people that take our programs, you might say. So the 30 classes on the year are then broken into modules. And in between modules, we have 2 course directors who are present in all of the classes, and they lead breakout tutoring sessions where you can come in and review or ask questions about the module that we've just completed, which is usually anywhere between 2 and 3 classes each. So those breakout study sessions led by our tutors are outside of the 30 classes and very useful. A lot of people like to attend those because they also offer opportunity for community and just lively conversation. We also have 12 online webinar classes led by guest teachers that we host throughout the year. Those are free, and if you can't make them live, they're all uploaded into your student folder. You also have an interactive group forum discussion staffed with tutors who typically respond to questions that you have about the material within 24 hours. So if you can't attend a tutoring session or you just have a random question on a Tuesday night, you can pop it in there and you'll get an answer. We also have a ton of bonus material, optional quizzes, flashcards, tons of supplemental material that is there to help people go as deeply as they want. We have a reading list that is expansive. And that reading list, we don't expect anyone to accomplish. It's more so a resource that we give you saying, here, if you want to know all the things I've read, if you want to know all the things that I love, if you want to know all the things I recommend, here's a master list of everything for each lesson. You could go, PhD level if you wanted to and read thousands and thousands of pages. Or you might find that there's just one extra book that looks really interesting and you want to pick it up. But we pride ourselves on making sure you have a ton of resources. You have lifetime access to all the class recordings. You can email our staff or me throughout the year with questions, and my staff will also defer to me in the case that they don't know the answer to a question. So that is what the program includes. It starts November 16th. If you would like to join, at the bottom between now and October 15th, our early bird payments are available. So that saves you some money off the cost of the course. There is a 12-month installment plan that is cheaper than our normal plan, a one-time payment that's significantly cheaper than our normal one-time payment. So you get these little sales that we do until October 15th. We also have need-based tuition assistance. So if you are someone who would like to take this program, but you are on a fixed or tight budget, we have an application there. Click apply now. Just tell us what you need. We give a range. We say between this dollar amount and this dollar amount, what can you spend? And then we set you up with a plan for that tuition number per month. And that is available for anyone. We ask people to apply early because those spots are limited, but we are really accommodating. We try to make sure that nobody's priced out of a spiritual education. Like, this topic should be very accessible for people because I believe that the divine is speaking through the sky, and like anyone should have access to understanding what it's saying, right? So anyway, that is a bit about the program. I hope that this has been useful for you. if there are any questions you have, you can look over the curriculum content on the page, on the year one page. There's more information there. Check out the FAQ section for more questions. Email us info@nightlightastrology.com. And I hope to see some of you in class soon. I think this is going to be a really powerful program because it's also starting right as Pluto is moving into Aquarius. And within the year, we're going to have a Uranus-Pluto trine with Uranus in Gemini. These Aries signatures and the connection between Uranus and Pluto make for a very powerful year to advance our understanding of astrology. So it's a great election year for studying. And I hope to see some of you in class soon.